Meanwhile, on the campaign trail, it's women and issues like contraception that the president is hitting hard today in hopes of breaking what seems to be Governor Romney's momentum.
By the way, we want our sons to thrive in math and science and engineering, but we also want our daughters to thrive in those fields too. We don't have to order up some binders to find qualified, talented, driven young women who can learn and excel in these fields right now. And when these young women graduate, I want them to receive equal pay for equal work.
Also today, a group of women who served under Governor Romney during his time as the governor of Massachusetts, well, they're now on a bus tour through Iowa, talking up his positions on women's issues. And on The View, the television program today, Ann Romney was pressed about whether her husband believes access to contraception and abortion is an economic issue. Here's how she responded.
You know, again, I would love it if you'd get my husband on the couch, Joy, and you can go down all that. You can go down with that all you want. What I know is what I can tell you and what I can reflect about my husband and who he is as a person.
Governor Romney was invited on The View. He said it did not fit into his schedule. Let me bring in our News Nation political panel, Democratic strategist Keith Boykin, also CNBC contributor Ann Kornbluth, deputy national political editor for The Washington Post, and for the first time in New York City, nationally syndicated radio show host, conservative Steve Deace. Thank you all for joining us. Keith, let me start off with you because we said Governor Romney's momentum, but let me clarify. Let me pull up this latest Marist poll, likely women voters. In Virginia, the president leads 54-42, Ohio 54-42, Florida 54-41. Is the president discussing these issues related to women's health because he sees Governor Romney having momentum, or that's an Achilles heel for Governor Romney when it comes to that key voting bloc?
I think it's an Achilles heel for Romney. It's something that the Obama campaign has focused on throughout the entire campaign. They have a strong record on women's issues. Governor Romney does not. I think it's not just the binders comment that the president is pushing, but you saw that just today they released this very strong ad on abortion, going after Mitt Romney's contradictions on the statement. And this is part of the reason why people like Steve in the past never really supported Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney's been all over the map on the issue of abortion. Ted Kennedy called him multiple choice because he had so many different positions.
And to your point, we have a new ad from the president hitting Governor Romney on the issue of abortion, and we have the Romney campaign's response, if you will. Let me play both of those ads, those campaign ads, just out with today, in fact. Let's play them.
You know, those ads saying Mitt Romney would ban all abortions and contraception seemed a bit extreme. So I looked into it. Turns out Romney doesn't oppose contraception at all, but I'm more concerned about the debt our children will be left with. I voted for President Obama last time, but we just can't afford 4 more years.
Seen this from Mitt Romney? Then take a look at this.
If Roe v. Wade was overturned, Congress passed a federal ban on all abortions and it came to your desk, would you sign it? Yes or no?
Let me say it. I'd be delighted to sign that bill.
Banning all abortions?
I'd be delighted to sign that bill.
Trying to mislead us? That's wrong.
Steve, which of those ads reflects Mitt Romney accurately?
Yeah, Steve, which is it? Tell me.
I love that you're both in studio. Don't go to blows. I don't want to have to break up anything, but go ahead.
Let me pull a Mitt Romney and say both. They both actually reflect Mitt Romney, and that's the problem, Tamara. I mean, he's the only politician I know of in the United States of America alive today who, over the course of his political career, has held every conceivable position on the issue of life. I mean, he has signed into law taxpayer-funded abortions. He's imposed birth control mandates on the Catholic Church. He did it as governor of Massachusetts. Now he's criticizing the president for doing it. I mean, both of these accurates are both, or both of these ads are both accurate.
But you support him, right?
I only support pro-life candidates.
And do you think he's a pro-life candidate?
I think for someone to be pro-life, they have to believe that life is sacred from the moment it's conceived until its natural death.
So you're giving a Mitt Romney
but Mitt Romney is...
No, I'm telling you that it's up to Mitt Romney to meet my definition. I'm the voter. I don't have to clarify my position for him. He needs to clarify his position
and he has not done that.
No, he has not. Well, he's clarified it multiple times.
Which means, though...
Multiple choices.
Which means, though, then your definition of wanting to support only a pro-life candidate has some holes in it because you don't know where he stands, so you'd be willing to vote for someone that you yourself just admitted you don't know where he stands.
I said I would not vote for somebody that is not pro-life.
Are you going to vote for him or not?
Well, there's 19 days to the election.
Oh, you're undecided.
Okay,
breaking news. Steve Deace is the conservative who is undecided, and this is fascinating in that, yes, these two gentlemen certainly matter and men matter in this election, but we know what group matters most at this hour, at this juncture, and it is female voters. And those ads, while Steve may be an undecided conservative, those ads are directed at women, and as Chuck Todd describes them, particularly suburban women who have not made their minds up at this point.
Yes, and with all due respect to Steve here, I think that Mitt Romney's not having committed to a position over the course of his life, having held these several different positions, is probably working in his favor here toward the end. Women who might feel nervous about him, or nervous about voting for anybody who is fiercely against choice, I think would take comfort in not only that ad, but his past record. And that's something that the campaign has embraced toward the end, as we've seen him soften up a little.
Okay, so would those same women then take comfort, Ann, in his campaign's position, or his campaign's position on the Lilly Ledbetter Act? You've got complete, I guess, a garbled response here. One part of the campaign says that he does not support the Lilly Ledbetter Act. Then he does support equal pay, but as Congressman Ryan said, it was an issue of lawsuits and litigation. I mean, where does he stand? Do we have a clear answer, even after the debate, even after having time to think about this, where Governor Romney stands on equal pay?
I think the answer you just identified is no. It's the intentionally muddy middle, and we could be seeing some daylight between him and Congressman Ryan. In the past, he had not actually answered the question and left it up to the imagination. So I think you identified the correct answer there.
So, Steve, let me bring you in on this equal pay. Governor Romney says he's for equal pay, but not for the Lilly Ledbetter Act. Does that make sense to you? And again, we know that he has turned into a more moderate candidate. What are the risks in saying that you would support something? You're married. You care about your wife getting a fair shake at work. What is the problem with Governor Romney just coming out and saying that this act is beneficial for the important part of our population, half of our population?
What you're dealing with is a poll-driven candidate. This is a focus group-driven candidate. He has been both times he's ran for president. I think when you talk about Mitt Romney, you have to look at his history, Tamron. In 1994, he ran for the U.S. Senate to the left of Ted Kennedy. In 2002, he ran for governor as a make the trains run on time, I don't care about social issues. He even said, I'm neither pro-life or pro-choice. I don't accept either label. That's how he ran for governor of Massachusetts. In 2008, he bought a bunch of leather recliners for a bunch of pro-life and pro-family leaders around the country and tried to schmooze them, and is on the cover of National Review as the guy that's going to put the Reagan coalition back together. And then in 2012, he runs as the next Republican establishment heir apparent, like John McCain and Bob Dole. I mean, he's run for office 4 times. He's run as a different candidate each time. He's run as a different candidate several times in this election.
And yet, in spite of all that, you would actually even consider voting for this guy just because he's not Barack Obama. I mean, this is a guy who has no consistency in his policy whatsoever. I don't understand why conservatives like this guy, except for the fact that he's not Barack Obama. But on every issue, I mean, Rick Santorum was right when he said he's the worst possible candidate to run against President Obama.
It was the most right Rick Santorum was in the entire campaign.
But in fairness, though, is it still at a point 19 days out for some conservatives, Steve, an issue of they just don't want Barack Obama in the White House?
It's not as simple as that. It's that they just don't want a repeat of the last 4 years. I think your viewers should not mistake what is the conservative industry for conservative voters around the country. There's a lot of conservative voters around the country that are not in New York and Washington, D.C., and they don't have book contracts and blogs predicated on pleasing right-wing advertisers. They're just conservatives who care deeply about the country, and what they're concerned about is that the last 4 years have been a failure, and they don't want to repeat the next 4 years.
I mean, you and I, you're from Iowa. I'm originally from Texas. I get it. My mother lives in one of the most conservative parts of the state of Texas, if that even makes sense at this point. But the reality is, and this is something that we've heard as well, the decisions and the policies from this president are similar to, or he says similar to, what we saw during the Clinton years. So then you would juxtapose the policy. You would juxtapose, well, Clinton says it himself, so you can battle that out, but they've agreed that their policies are the same. And then you have former President Bush and Romney's policies, from the Bush tax cuts. I mean, when you compare it just under that, if we're doing a Bush versus Clinton scenario, for Pete's sake here, when what years were your life better? I mean, you know, foreclosures are down, home prices are up. I mean, there are indicators that we are on the upswing. And I'm not advocating for anyone here. I'm just looking at the simple, as they say, the math here. People were suffering under policies under the Bush administration, which are greatly similar.
You don't think people are suffering right now?
Oh, of course they are. You think you're kidding me? But I also
actually think the two administrations that are the most similar, frankly, are Bush and Obama's. I think their economics, I mean, Obama can complain all he wants about the Bush tax cuts.
And you see differences between Romney and Bush? You see differences between Governor Romney?
I think Romney is just another George W. Bush, and I think conservatives agree, and that's why it took him so long.
So you guys just don't like anybody. You don't like Romney, you don't like Bush, you don't like Bush.
I rode here today with a limo driver who is a black voter who considers himself socially conservative. He just started talking me up out of nowhere, and he told me, listen, I can't believe what Obama's done. I think he's a failure, but I just can't bring myself to vote for Mitt Romney because I don't trust him as an individual. And I think that's actually the majority of the American people are. I don't think they're all that excited about either one of these candidates.
Let me respond to this. I don't even know where to begin with this. I don't know what you believe, Steve, and I think you're actually much more like Mitt Romney than you actually may realize. The problem here is that Barack Obama is running against a guy who is a chameleon. He has an opponent who was perfectly correctly labeled by John Huntsman as a perfectly lubricated weather vane because he switched his position.
But in fairness, Keith, we know all of these things. 19 days out.
And we do. And because of that, Mitt Romney is trying everything he can to shapeshift in the last 19 days or the last 3 weeks. And you saw that debate. He didn't take a position on the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, even when he was asked. He was asked before, earlier in the campaign. He didn't take a position on it. And the idea that somehow you can say that Barack Obama is different from Bill Clinton, whom I work for, is completely preposterous.
Bill Clinton gave us a defensive marriage act. Bill Clinton gave us welfare reform. Bill Clinton gave us balanced budgets.
You're doing another Mitt Romney.
Keith, that was about the most consecutive term any president.
Let me just say this real quick.
Quickly.
Okay, we had a 39.6% top marginal income tax rate under Bill Clinton. That's the same tax rate that Barack Obama wants to return to. That's the rate where we actually created 23 million new jobs. Right now, part of the reason why the economy isn't growing is because after the stimulus ended, the Republicans came in and they refused to provide any sort of help for the economy. They refused to provide help for the Jobs Act. They basically decided to filibuster, as Mitch McConnell said, to make Barack Obama a one-term presidency their primary goal. How can you work with people like this? And you, Steve, know that's the reason why.
Hang on, because I don't want to leave Ann out of this conversation, and I do want to change topics here quickly to not even a lighter note. This is kind of the same thing. Everyone is uber aggressive. There's a lot of alpha males and testosterone to go around. So I'm going to play what Tagg Romney said on the radio show. His brother Josh Romney has tried to clarify, but let me play first what Tagg said.
Jump out of your seat and you want to rush down the debate stage and take a swing at him, but you know you can't do that because well, first because there's a lot of Secret Service between you and him, but also because this is the nature of the process.
I don't like to see your dad get beat up by the media or President Obama or whatever it is, and so you take it pretty personally, but I think that was just something he was saying off the cuff, and I assure you he didn't mean it.
And well, Keith already obviously told us his opinion. What do you think of this, Ann?
Well, look, obviously emotions are running high for the family. I don't know that the Secret Service is going to launch an investigation.
No, and we're not saying that. But I mean, listen, obviously, you don't hear that every day. You don't hear the child of someone running for president saying they want to deck or slug or whatever it is the president of the United States.
No, but you know that the family's feeling it. I mean, if you go back and look at what Ann Romney said just a few weeks ago about how hard it is and people who are critics should try it themselves.
But she also basically said if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. She did say,
I think that was the response to her.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that on the Democratic side, you haven't heard Michelle Obama come out and sound quite as defensive of her husband, but you know she is. And I think that's true for candidates everywhere.
But this is the most privileged, pampered group of people I've ever seen, complaining about everything along the way, from Ann Romney to Tagg Romney. And the idea that somehow they get away with it makes no sense to me, because you know, everyone at this table and everyone in this panel knows, if by chance Barack Obama had a son, and his son, who was an African-American, said he wanted to take a swing at the President of the United States, there would be an uproar from Steve and the conservative conservative media and Fox News. This is a double standard at its highest
level. There would be an uproar if Sasha or Malia said it, and they're teenage girls. But okay,
I mean, listen, I take a lot of slings and punches all the time. I'm sure my 11-year-old Anna is watching this at home right now. She probably wishes she could have taken a swing at Keith for comparing me to Mitt Romney, for goodness sake. So, I mean, in the heat of the battle, I think you cut people a little bit of slack when families at stake.
I wish Tagg Romney would try to do that. I think this is a crazy campaign, and the idea that you have these people saying that nonsense just might make voters
more excited than they are right now.
I don't know, because it's pretty exciting as of late. There's been a lot of aggression, and I think that's sometimes a good thing. Work it out. Hey, Anna, by the way, thanks for watching your dad. That counts as one other conservative watching, because I'm assuming that kid is a conservative.
You bet she is. Chip off the old block, Keith.
All right, thank you guys very much.